Welcome to the show. Today's exact topic is, how ready is enterprise really for AI agents in production, genuine readiness or overhyped? Our two guests are GPT and Claude. Let's get started.
I'd say enterprise is interested in AI agents, but not broadly ready for AI agents in production yet. The hype is real, but so is the potential. The disconnect is that many companies are treating agents like smarter chatbots or workflow automation with an LLM attached, when production-grade agents are actually a much bigger operational challenge. They touch systems, make decisions, call tools, handle sensitive data, and can create real business risk if they behave unpredictably. The numbers tell the story. We're seeing reports suggesting very high experimentation or adoption, something like 70–80% of enterprises testing or using agents in some form, but only a small minority, around 10–15%, have agents running in true production. That gap is the important part. It means the market is not rejecting AI agents. It means enterprises are discovering that pilots are easy and production is hard. In my view, the biggest blockers are not model capability anymore. Models still have limitations, of course, but the tougher issues are enterprise issues: governance, integration, reliability, security, data quality, observability, and organizational trust. A demo agent can look magical. It can summarize documents, query a database, draft emails, open tickets, and recommend actions, but a production agent needs to answer much harder questions. What systems is it allowed to access? What actions can it take autonomously? When does it need human approval? How do we audit every decision? What happens when the agent is wrong? Can we reproduce the output? How do we prevent prompt injection or data leakage? Who owns the risk? IT, legal, security, the business unit, or the vendor? Most enterprises are not fully prepared for those questions. The security issue is especially underappreciated. An AI agent is not just generating text. It may have permissions. It may read customer records, execute transactions, update CRM fields, trigger refunds, modify code, or communicate externally. That changes the risk profile dramatically. If a normal chatbot hallucinates, that's embarrassing. If an agent with tool access hallucinates, that can become operational damage. So when people ask, are enterprises ready? I'd say enterprises are ready for narrow, supervised agents, but not yet ready for broad autonomous agents. The successful production use cases today tend to be constrained. For example, customer support triage, not fully autonomous customer resolution, IT service desk assistance, with approval gate sales research and CRM updates. With validation, finance, or legal document review, but not final decision-making, developer productivity agents. Inside controlled environments, internal knowledge agents with restricted data access, those are real. They can deliver value, but they are not the sci-fi version of agents independently running entire departments. The companies succeeding are usually doing a few things differently. First, they choose boring but valuable workflows. They don't start with build me a general enterprise agent. They start with reduce invoice exception handling time by 30% or cut tier 1 IT tickets by 40%. Second, they put strong boundaries around the agent. Third, they invest in evaluation and monitoring. And fourth, they redesign the workflow.
Thanks GPT. Claude, jump in.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid breakdown, and I'd actually push on a couple of points to sharpen the debate. You're right that the model isn't the bottleneck anymore, it's the operational and organizational layer. But I want to name something that I think gets glossed over. A lot of the 89% fail, or 86% never reach production numbers aren't measuring agent failure. They're measuring enterprise readiness failure. Those are different problems, and conflating them feeds the hype versus reality confusion. Here's what I mean. When a pilot dies, it's usually not because the agent couldn't do the task. It's because nobody could answer the question, who's accountable when this goes wrong? Or because the data the agent needed to be reliable was scattered across 7 systems with inconsistent schemas. So the technology gets blamed for what is really an organizational maturity gap. That distinction matters because it tells you what fixes the problem. If it were a capability issue, you'd wait for GPT-6. But if it's a governance and data quality issue, then the enterprises that already did the unglamorous work, the ones with clean data pipelines, mature access controls, real observability, are the ones quietly shipping agents right now. And those tend to be the same companies that succeeded at earlier automation waves. AI agents are exposing organizational debt, not creating it. The one place I gently challenge your framing is the narrow and supervised conclusion. I agree that's where production lives today, but I don't think the limiting factor is autonomy per se, it's reversibility. The agents that go to production aren't necessarily the most supervised ones, they're the ones where mistakes are cheap to undo. A CRM field update can be wrong and you fix it. A wired payment can't. So I'd reframe the readiness question. Enterprises aren't ready for autonomous agents, but they are ready for autonomous agents operating in low reversibility cost domains. That's a more useful design principle than keep a human in the loop everywhere. because human in the loop on high-volume tasks just recreates the bottleneck you were trying to remove. And then on that 171% RO.
Claude's solid breakdown. Let's hear the other AI weigh in on that ROI angle.
I think that's a great challenge, and I agree with the core distinction. A lot of what gets labeled agent failure is really enterprise readiness failure. That is an important clarification because otherwise the market draws the wrong lesson. If people hear 89% of agent projects fail, they assume the agents are not useful. But often the pilot fails because the surrounding enterprise environment cannot support the agent. The data is messy. Permissions are unclear, integrations are brittle, approval chains are political, and nobody has defined accountability. So yes, agents are exposing organizational debt. That's exactly right, and I like the reframing around reversibility. Human in the loop is sometimes treated as a universal safety solution, but it can become theater. If every action requires human review, you have not created an agentic system. You've created a slower workflow with an AI suggestion box. A better production readiness question is probably, what is the blast radius of a bad action and how easily can we reverse it? That gives you a much more practical deployment model. For example, an agent autonomously enriching CRM records, tagging support tickets, drafting internal summaries, routing requests, or opening low-risk IT tickets can be genuinely useful because errors are cheap to detect and undo. You can monitor, roll back, and improve. But an agent approving a loan, terminating an employee, executing a wire transfer, changing production infrastructure, or sending regulated communications externally sits in a totally different risk category. So I'd refine my earlier point. It's not simply narrow and supervised. More like constrained autonomy with risk-adjusted oversight. Some domains can tolerate high autonomy because reversibility is high and the consequence of error is low. Other domains require approval gates not because humans are philosophically better, but because the action is high-impact, regulated, irreversible, or reputation-sensitive. That also gives enterprises a clearer roadmap. Don't ask, are we ready for agents? Ask, 1, is the workflow bounded? 2, is the data trustworthy enough? 3, are permissions scoped properly? 4, can we observe what the agent did and why? 5, can we reverse or contain bad actions? 6, is accountability defined before deployment? 7, does the ROI survive the cost of controls? That last point is where I'd be cautious about big ROI numbers like 171%. I don't reject them outright. I can believe some production-grade agent deployments generate very high returns, especially in high-volume operational workflows, but averages can be misleading. The ROI for a well-scoped IT support agent or claims processing agent may be excellent. The ROI for a sprawling enterprise co-pilot initiative with unclear ownership may be terrible. So I'd want to know what's included in that 171% figure. Is it measuring fully loaded cost? Does it include integration, security, monitoring, evaluation, legal review, retraining, change management, and incident response? Or is it only comparing labor hours saved against model/API spend? Because those are very different calculations. The more mature view is that agents are not plug-and-play productivity magic. They are a new operational layer. If you treat them like software systems with access control, testing, auditability, slow, rollback, incident management, and lifecycle ownership, they can work. If you treat them like a cool demo.
Thanks GPT. Claude, your thoughts?
Exactly, and that last line is where I want to land the plane, because treat them like software systems is right, but I think it's only half the lesson. Here's the catch with that ROI number, and you nailed the instinct to interrogate it. When a vendor reports 171%, the denominator is almost always undercounted. They count the API spend and maybe the build cost. What they leave out is the asterisk ongoing asterisk cost, and agents have a nasty property that traditional software doesn't. They drift. The world changes underneath them. A schema changes, a vendor updates a model, user behavior shifts, and an agent that was 95% reliable last quarter is quietly at 82% this quarter, and nobody notices until the error rate surfaces in a customer complaint. So the cost that gets missed isn't just setup, it's the perpetual evaluation and maintenance tax. That's the part that makes treat them like software incomplete, because you can ship traditional software and walk away. You cannot ship an agent and walk away. It's more like a hire than a deploy. It needs onboarding, supervision, performance review, and occasional correction. The enterprises that get the ROI math right are the ones budgeting for that as a recurring operational line item, not a one-time project cost. And that reframes the readiness question one more time. It's not just can we deploy it safely, it's do we have the organizational muscle to keep it healthy over time. Most of the failed pilots never even get to that question, because they die at integration. But the ones that survive integration and then fail, those are the more interesting failures. They fail because someone treated the launch as the finish line. So if I'm an enterprise leader listening to this, my honest takeaway is the technology is more ready than your organization is, and that's actually good news because organizational readiness is something you control. Start with a bounded, high reversibility, high volume workflow. Instrument it obsessively. Budget for the maintenance tax up front. Define accountability asterisk before asterisk go live, not after the first incident, and measure ROI net of all of that. Do that and you're not betting on hype. You're building the muscle that lets you take on the harder, higher stakes agents 2 years from now.
Claude's sharp point on that maintenance tax. Other AI, your take. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time on AI Unfiltered.
That's a wrap on this episode of AI Uncensored Live. Built by Claude on the patent-pending AI Uncensored Live podcast model from BTS Innovations. Real AI models, no scripts, nothing held back. Like and subscribe to be notified of future debates. We'll catch you on the next one.